The show starts with So-jin dreaming about finding her perfect man through DNA analysis. Unfortunately, she wakes up just before she can see his face. So-jin is a genetic researcher who has had a tough time with relationships. She keeps dating men who cheat, and she's tired of it. Her current boyfriend, Sang-min, breaks up with her, but at least she wasn't cheated on this time. Sang-min says he never really liked her. He also thinks she didn't appreciate his natural charm and tried to change him by making a special serum for his baldness. So Jin is shocked when he dumps her and chases him into the street, hoping to change his mind. Meanwhile, we meet Sim Yeonu, an obstetrician gynecologist. He is dating a younger woman who is struggling because he won't accept her lifestyle. Yeonu breaks up with her over the phone. He is very logical about dating and will break up at the slightest problem. Because of his looks, he often gets away with being a bit of a jerk. After Sang-min breaks up with her, So Jin finds out he has the cheating gene. However, she refuses to believe he cheated on her because she's never caught him. Meanwhile, we meet Gang-hun, a firefighter who is kind and always goes out of his way to help others. While dealing with a fire, he gives his number to a woman he helped before. He had saved her once when she tried to hurt herself. This time, she fainted because she's pregnant. Gang-hun is also So-jin's childhood friend and worries about her repeated heartbreaks. So Jin asks him to go out for drinks that night, but he says no. So Jin is disappointed but decides to go to Gang-hun's family restaurant anyway. At the restaurant, So Jin meets two women. One is Lina, who is heartbroken because Yeonu dumped her. The other, Sori, is just helping her friend drink away her pain. As So Jin and Lina talk about their troubles, they decide they need to teach Yeonu a lesson. They drunkenly head over to Yeonu's house without warning. Yeonu is surprised when the women barge in with Lina demanding an explanation. Yeonu says he got tired of Lina's complaints and makes fun of her when she says he is her destiny. So Jin gets angry when Yeonu dismisses the idea of destiny. She attacks him with the hairspray she made for Sang-min. Unfortunately, Yeonu gets a cut while trying to protect his beard and the hairspray gets into his wound. After So Jin causes trouble by cursing and spraying Yeonu with the serum, Sori pulls her outside. So Jin forgets her serum and leaves one of her shoes behind. Once outside, So Jin starts talking to the gods, trying to get them to bring her the man of her dreams. While they wait for a taxi, Gang-hun walks by on his way to Yeonu's place. It turns out he and Yeonu have been friends for a long time. Sori hides So Jin and quickly takes her home before Gang-hun can see her. Meanwhile, Gang-hun finds Lina still crying at Yeonu's house. Yeonu asks him to get Lina a cab and see her off. While waiting for the taxi, Gang-hun tells Lina to find a good man who will love her. Later, he calls Yeonu out for selfishly breaking women's hearts and leaves. The next morning, Yeonu wakes up to find that one side of his sideburns is much too hairy. He realizes that So Jin's serum worked. As for So Jin, she wakes up with a foggy memory of what happened. She vaguely remembers getting drunk and wishing for someone to get hairy. She brushes off her concerns and agrees to meet Gang-hun later that evening. While So Jin and Gang-hun are outside, So Jin sees Sang-min with his new partner. He was cheating on her, but she never caught him in the act. Sang-min starts yelling at her, and she tells him that his DNA shows he will die young from diabetes and that she'll go bald soon. Sang-min tries to hit her, but Gang-hun steps in and stops him. He then takes So Jin to his dad's restaurant and tries to cheer her up with food. They talk about the deep love Gang-hun's parents had before his mom passed away. Gang-hun tells So Jin to bring any man she wants to date to him so he can check him out. Even though she's had another heartbreak, So Jin remains hopeful that she'll find her perfect match soon. The next morning, Yeonu wakes up to find even more hair growing on one side of his sideburns. He quickly shaves it, but it keeps growing back rapidly. Despite this, he still needs to work and go to So Jin's lab to pick up his patient's test results. By now, So Jin has already talked to Sori and knows what happened. She is surprised when Yeonu arrives at the lab. Yeonu arrives at So Jin's lab and stays calm, waiting to see her reaction. So Jin, on the other hand, tries to stay composed and pretends she has no idea why Yeonu's sideburns look messy. The lead technician asks So Jin to show Yeonu around and go over the patient files with him. So Jin tries to bring up Yeonu's sideburns casually, and the topic of the anti-balding serum comes up. She gets carried away and starts talking about how well the serum works. Yeonu gets more upset as he realizes that So Jin is pretending not to know what's going on and starts planning his revenge. After the tour, they discuss Yeonu's patients. So Jin is worried about one of his pregnant patients, Yuyam, who has pulmonary hypertension and whose baby has Edwards syndrome. It's a tough decision because only one can be saved. So Jin wonders if there's a way to at least let Yuyam carry the pregnancy to term so she can briefly meet her child. She talks about how important and healing such a meeting can be. Unfortunately, Yeonu doesn't agree but still listens to her. After their discussion, Yeonu asks for So Jin's number, and she reluctantly gives it to him. So Jin panics after Yeonu leaves when he sends her a message saying he's happy to be part of her experiment. She remembers that she said something similar to him on the night she caused trouble, and now Yeonu knows about her actions. She's already stressed about leaving the serum in his house, and now her secret is out. Still, she convinces herself that Yeonu deserves this. Later that night, she takes her colleague's dog for a walk and tries to train it to find the scent of her dream man. The dog leads her to Ganghun, who is also walking a friend's dog. He teases Sojin about trying to find the perfect man and doing experiments outside the lab. Ganghun gives her a safety bell for when she visits his dad's restaurant, knowing that Sojin tends to cause trouble when she's drunk and wants to make sure she's safe. Sojin wonders if Ganghun might be the right man for her, but she realizes he is kind to everyone and doesn't treat her as special. She returns the dog and promises to help her colleague, A-Rai, find a man too. The next day, Jungtam bumps into a woman and follows her to a gym. Even though she isn't his usual type, he feels oddly attracted to her. He talks to Yeonu about his feelings, and Yeonu suggests that Jungtam should date the woman to see if it's just a phase. Yeonu admits that he has a type. He seems to like an old friend, Jang Ma-yeon, who is a well-known polyamorist. She likes him too, but neither of them wants to make a move and risk their friendship. Later, Yeonu meets with Yu-young and updates her on her pregnancy condition. Unfortunately, she turns out to be the same woman Ganghun once saved. She chose to live after finding out she was pregnant, but life keeps being tough for her. Yeonu advises her to think carefully about her situation, but warns that it will be harder to save her if she decides to keep the pregnancy. After dealing with this hairy problem, Yeonu calls Sojin and demands that she meet him at his office the next day. Sojin agrees and is ready to take responsibility for what happened. Yeonu tells her to find an antidote within 24 hours. Sojin takes Yeonu's DNA samples, and as she gets close to him, he starts to feel some attraction. Even though it's a tough task, Sojin works hard to find the antidote. After a long day at work, Yeonu visits his mom to honor his parents' anniversary. We learn that after Yeonu's dad left, his mom fell into a deep depression. She hardly knows how much time has passed and lies in a different world, grieving over her lost relationship. After the visit, Yeonu stops by Ganghun's dad's restaurant and admits that his parents ruined his belief in love. That's why he prefers to have casual relationships rather than anything serious. He doesn't understand how Ganghun can stay in love with one person. Meanwhile, Yu-young is thinking about her options and tries to call Ganghun. Unfortunately, he's at work dealing with a crisis and doesn't answer her calls. At the same time, Sojin continues to look into Yu-young's case and discovers a change in the new test results. She has the Daim gene, which means she's at risk of being suicidal. She tries to call Yeonu to warn him, but it's too late. A nurse tells Yeonu that Yu-young is on the hospital rooftop, so Jin hears this and starts running to the hospital. The firefighters arrive quickly and start setting up an inflatable jump bag. When Sojin gets there, she sees Yeonu trying to comfort Yu-young with her own words. Sojin approaches Yu-young and shares her own experience with depression after her family died. She pleads with Yu-young to reconsider and let Yeonu try to save the baby. As Yu-young thinks about what to do, Sojin gets closer and reaches out her hand. However, Yu-young decides to jump. Sojin grabs her and pulls her back. The other doctors help Yu-young, and Yeonu tries to grab Sojin. Unfortunately, they both lose their balance and start falling towards the inflatable jump bag set up by the firefighters. Sojin and Yeonu fall from the rooftop. Even in this dangerous situation, Sojin is drawn to Yeonu's scent. They land on the inflatable bag and Ganghun rushes over to help Sojin. He also checks on Yeonu, and they realize they know each other. After Sojin and Yeonu assure everyone they're okay, Yeonu goes to check on Yu-young and Sojin decides to go have a drink. She heads to her favorite park and drinks while thinking about her dad. Ganghun follows her, and they talk about how hard her dad's death was. Sojin feels guilty for noticing her dad's depression but not doing anything about it. It turns out that she and Sori are sisters. Their family broke apart long before their dad died, and after he was gone, they lost touch. Ganghun feels guilty for not being able to save Sojin's dad, even though he was one of the paramedics. He comforts Sojin and takes her home. Meanwhile, Yeonu struggles with back pain and wonders why he used Sojin's words to comfort Yu-young. The next day, Yeonu's doctor friend joins the gym because he can't stop thinking about Sungmai. He finds her interesting but is unsure how to approach her. He is attracted to her scent. Meanwhile, Sojin can't stop thinking about Yeonu's scent. She decides to test his DNA to see if the attraction is real. She first asks Ganghun if Yeonu visits the restaurant often. When that doesn't work, she convinces Ganghun to join Yeonu's friendly basketball game at the hospital. She goes to the basketball game and cheers for the team while nervously hoping to get some of Yeonu's sweat. The guys think she's their lucky charm and are happy she came. After the game, she sneaks Yeonyu's jersey, but he sees her. Fortunately, he doesn't ask her about it, even though he's curious. She uses the sweat from Yeonyu's jersey to figure out his unique scent and realizes she is really attracted to it. She likes his scent, but Aray thinks it smells awful, like a sewer. After this, Sojin decides to ask Yeonyu if she can check for the cheating gene. Meanwhile, Yeonum goes to an exhibition with Mayeon. The artist Mayeon Hui is close to Mayeon and calls her like a daughter. But Mayeon Hui's real daughters are Sojin and Sori. One of Mayeon Hui's artworks shows her struggle with motherhood and how she felt overwhelmed after having her children. She felt like they were holding her back. Later, Yeonum has dinner with Mayeon and admits he's interested in Sojin. He also hints that he understands why Mayeon Hu cut off her family and wishes he could do the same with his parents. At the hospital, Yeonum gets a new case, but Sojin's behavior distracts him. He wants to ask her something, but isn't sure if he really wants to know. The opportunity comes up when his friends invite Ganghun and Sojin to dinner. During the meal, they talk about octopuses having multiple partners, and Sojin explains why she hates octopuses. Yeonum thinks she's being unfair to his favorite dish, and they end up arguing. While they're talking, Sojin chokes on a piece of octopus and Yeonum helps her. After the meal, Yeonum follows Sojin outside and asks why she took his jersey. She explains that she wanted to see why she was drawn to his scent. Yeonyu is pleased that she admits she likes him, and he mentions it. Sojin gets embarrassed, but Ganghun arrives and gives her a chance to leave. In the following days, Sojin worries about getting Yeonyu's permission to test for the cheating gene. After thinking it over, she decides to ask him when she visits to give him the super teal antidote. However, Yeonyu refuses, saying that's not how people really get to know each other. She asks if he's attracted to her scent but gets shy when he moves closer. Meanwhile, Sungmei and Ganghun see an apartment on fire and hurry to help. It turns out to be Mayeon's apartment. Mayeon is very grateful to Ganghun for saving her and scolds her for not setting up her emergency announcement speaker correctly. Later, Sojin, Sori, and Mayeon Hui have a dinner at Ganghun's dad's restaurant to honor their dad. Mayeon Hui still acts like Sojin's dad was weak for taking his own life. She blames him for getting depressed after losing his job and not being able to support his family. The three women argue loudly, blaming each other for their roles in the situation. Everyone in the restaurant hears them, including Yeonyu, who is also there for dinner. Sojin gets upset and storms out after her mom blames her. Ganghun is too busy to follow Sojin, so Yeonyu goes after her. He tries to ignore her but ends up joining her at her favorite park and listens as she talks. She says that love is painful, especially if it's one-sided. She wants to find her DNA lover so she can support him. Hearing this makes Yeonyu find her even more attractive. He agrees to let her test his DNA. Excited, Sojin rushes to the lab to check if Yeonyu has the cheating gene. It turns out he has the highest level of the cheating gene she's ever seen. In the epilogue, we learn that Sojin accidentally took Ganghun's jersey instead of Yeonyu's.